Alright, so this episode just really it blended two worlds together in my mind, and we'll talk about that once we, start talking about the episode. But yeah, it was just it was melding two worlds into my mind. For some reason it was parts of it wanted to click, but other parts were it just didn't want to click. We'll talk about it. Hey guys, what's going on? Daniel Strong from QuickTime Reactions, and let us talk about episode 3 of season 2 of Peacemaker, entitled Another Rick Up My Sleeve. This one is much like last episode. It was written by James Gunn and directed by Greg Motola. I hope I'm saying his last name right. But in this episode, we get to see Chris live out a day in the alternate dimension that he has been visiting a couple of times. And luckily for Chris, he gets together with Harcourt, and he also gets the opportunity to kick ass in the process. Meanwhile, in Chris's actual dimension, Argus is slowly but surely getting closer and closer to finding out where he is and, well, performing a raid on his house. So, what will happen? Well, let's get into it. So, I love the way that this episode starts out. We start again in a flashback, much like we did with episode 2, which that episode's flashback was, I believe, 8 months ago. This one was 3 years ago, and we are with Harcourt and Rick Flag Jr. Yes, Joel Kinnaman is now, well, he was DCU canon, considering, his father, Rick Flag Sr., looked at his case, his death case, last episode, so he was already DCU canon. But just seeing Joel Kinnaman in this new DCU, that was the part that was, breaking my brain a little bit, because I was just like, you were in the first Suicide Squad movie. I know you were in the new one, but it's when I see him, I immediately think the DCEU, because he was in that first Suicide Squad movie, and it was just breaking my brain. But I'm so happy that he's in this, and it was really cool seeing him in the flashback and also in the alternate dimension where he did not die, and he is working in Argus and is the jarhead that Chris and Keith referred to when they're talking about Amelia Harcourt in the other dimension. But I also love how the flashback ends. Harcourt and Junior just got done, having fun. And she says, "Hey, you got to get ready. You fly out to Corto Maltese in 2 hours." And it's just oh man, just the last sense of normalcy that he had was, doing stuff with Amelia. And then, he goes to Corto Maltese and dies. So in this episode, it's mainly Peacemaker, Chris in that alternate dimension, trying to reconnect with that dimension's Harcourt. And I pointed out in I believe my first episode breakdown with the dancing that there was that main focus on Cena and Jennifer Holland. They are very much like the focal point of the dance number. On two different occasions, they have moments during that opening intro sequence. And I definitely think that this is going to be a big backbone of the season, where it's like Chris tries to, develop or try to rekindle this relationship in the other dimension. Meanwhile, in his home dimension, Adebayo and Harcourt, they have this conversation of like, Chris is a good dude, and he may be, effed up, but you're just as effed up as he is, and basically Adebayo is saying in that conversation, like, two birds of a feather do flock together. So it's like, why not go after him? But I also do like Chris in the alternate dimension. I love that when he quizzed his brother, he was just like, "Hey, quiz time. What's the address for Harcourt's place of work?" And Keith's like, "Why are you asking me these questions? Like, why would I know the address for Argus?" And it's like, "Oh, Argus, that's correct." And Keith is just like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Hey, another question. Where are the keys to your truck?" I'm like, "Why do you need my truck? Just use your peace cycle." I'm like, "Nah, that's another right answer." And he's just like, "Okay, whatever." It's just, like completely oblivious, even though I have a feeling when it comes to later in the season it will become very obvious. But there is a big commotion that happens at what looked like a DMV, even though I think that the DMV in that universe is completely different to a DMV like in our world and in probably the home universe. But yeah, Chris just goes in and absolutely wrecks shop. I love the one dude in the stairwell. He looks and sees the shattered glass on the ground, and Chris just, goes to town on him with an axe. He hides behind a printer and just like rams a dude into the wall. And then I saw him pick up a pencil, and I was like, "Oh, he's gonna go John Wick and kill somebody with a pencil." No, he does. He stabs the dude on both sides of his head and basically like marionettes him while hanging upside down. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, that is amazing." By the way, I should mention that the group that was attacking that DMV was the Sons of Liberty. And in my head, I was like, "Is this the same group from Creature Commando?" And then I remembered, no. The group in Creature Commando was the Sons of Themyscira. This is the Sons of Liberty. So, again, my knowledge as a DC fan, it's pretty low compared to like a Marvel fan, because I'm a huge Marvel guy. I'm slowly but surely learning stuff about DC. So enlighten me down in the comments what the Sons of Liberty are like in the comments. But Chris is able to defuse the bomb, and Keith takes out the Sons of Liberty's getaway vehicle, which was a chopper. And of course, everyone in town loves them, and both Chris and Keith go home. They have a drink, and Keith's like, "You sure you're good? You've been out, for pretty long periods." And it's like, "Dad's worried about you. Just want to make sure that you're good." And Chris is like, "Yeah, I'm good." And it's like, Keith says, like, "Are you sure you're not on the pills again?" And we did see pills in one of the clothing drawers when Chris was getting dressed. Um, and Chris was like, no, no, I'm not on the pills. And, Chris was about to break down and, just say, like, I've missed you a lot. And Keith's like, dude, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. And plus, I'm your big brother. I'm always going to be by your side. Um, and, this gives Chris all the confidence in the world, and he decides, I'm going to head home. But of course, when he decides to go home, Argus is showing up to his house with a full squad of people to try and take down Chris, and also to try and take down Eagly, because we remember what happened last episode with those Argus agents. Eagly messed them up big time. So they have brought in Red Saint Wild, played by frequent James Gunn collaborator Michael Rooker. He's going to try and kill Eagly as best as he can. And Economos is paired up with someone who he's met before in Judo Master. So him and Judo Master are now paired up with each other as they descend upon Peacemaker's house. So it very much seems like next episode is going to be the big chase to try and not only get Peacemaker, but also to try and get Eagly. And it's going to be a very wild and wacky episode next week, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But yeah, that is my review / breakdown of season 2, episode 3 of Peacemaker. I'm really liking the show so far. This episode, while kind of like, it was a really good episode, but it's like after the first two, it's like, I would assume many people would say it's going to be like, a slight dip. But I had fun watching this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the rest of the show is going to play out. But until next week, guys, be safe out there, and remember, if you're trying to reconnect with someone, make sure that you are the person that tries to put on the condiments for whatever you're eating, whether it be a burger or a hot dog. Make sure that you do it, because if they decide to do it, it could end up being very messy. So just make sure that you can control what you can control, whenever you're out and about with somebody. And I will see you guys next time.